US President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu may not be on the same page regarding how to proceed with Iran. Now, a new Axios report suggests that the two leaders held a tense hour-long conversation on Tuesday. According to the sources, Trump briefed Netanyahu on the ongoing mediation efforts involving Qatar and Pakistan, including discussions surrounding a possible letter of intent that both Washington and Tehran could sign. The proposed framework would reportedly formalize an end to the war and establish a 30-day negotiating period, which would be focused on unresolved issues such as Iran's nuclear program and the future status of the Strait of Hormuz. Two Israeli officials said that the two leaders were in disagreement, while the US sources claim that Bibi's hair was on fire after the call. Trump, at least on the face, maintains that all is well between him and Netanyahu. The US President on Wednesday told reporters that the Israeli Prime Minister was a very good man and will do whatever he wants him to do.
After you said yesterday you're about an hour away from making a decision, where does that stand today? Have you heard anything from them?
It's fine. He'll do whatever I want him to do. He's a very good man. He'll do whatever I want him to do, and he's a great guy. To me, he's a great guy. Don't forget, he was a wartime prime minister. And he's not treated right in Israel, in my opinion. I'm right now at 99% in Israel. I could run for prime minister. So maybe after I do this, I'll go to Israel, run for prime minister. I had a poll this morning. I'm 99%.
He also described the talks between American and Iranian negotiators as being on the borderline between a deal and renewed strikes. Trump, who said earlier that negotiations were in their final stages, he warned that the window for diplomacy could close quickly. His statements come as Iran examines a new US proposal to end the war.
If we don't get the right answers, it goes very quickly. We're all ready to go. We have to get the right answers. It would have to be a complete 100% good answers. And if we do, we save a lot of time, energy, and lives, most importantly.
And now joining us live from Jerusalem is Alex Trayman, CEO and Jerusalem Bureau Chief of Jewish News Syndicate. Thank you so much for making time for us. Now, of course, President Trump has claimed that Prime Minister Netanyahu will do whatever that he asks of him, insisting that the pair are on the same page over negotiations to end the Iran war. Do you believe that to be the case?
Well, I think that the two are very much on the same page. At the same time, Prime Minister Netanyahu doesn't believe that the Iranians will sign a deal that will get Trump everything that he says that he wants, making the likely outcome of this attempted negotiations being a renewed military strike. However, if Iran does come to its senses and sign the agreement that President Trump wants, which I believe is an agreement that Netanyahu will accept as well, then the preferred outcome in the United States is to reach a negotiated settlement and not need to use military force.
Right, we hear you, but following this reportedly tense phone call, Trump has signaled a desire to wait and negotiate terms, while parallel reports indicate that Netanyahu has pushed to resume strikes and also degrade the critical military and physical infrastructure in Iran. How do you think Israel is going to reconcile these differences?
Well, I think that this report is a suspect. It's an anonymous U.S. source that said that the call that Netanyahu's hair was on fire after the call. So the anonymous source knew what Netanyahu said after the call concluded with the President of the United States. I mean, this is just one of a whole series of articles and reports, particularly by Axios, over the last year and a half, which have always tried to project a rift between Netanyahu and Trump. But if you listen to both Trump and Netanyahu over and over again, including today, they say that the two leaders are on the same page.
Right, and that is the official statement that's coming out. But we also understand that as pressure is mounting on President Trump on all directions, there is this growing fear that the pressure could tempt Trump to, declare victory without achieving the set objectives of the war. And perhaps that possibility is also not lost on Iran. Do you see perhaps that to be the reason for Israel's relatively more hardline stance on Iran in this case?
Well, I think for both the President of the United States and Prime Minister Netanyahu, opening the Straits of Hormuz is a must, particularly for the President. It was his Epic Fury operation that led to the closing of the Straits of Hormuz. There are many countries around the world that depend on those straits being open, and I don't think that the President can leave these straits in the position that they are in which Iran is charging fees for tankers to move through. And then for both leaders, Trump and Netanyahu, they've both stated repeatedly that removing the enriched uranium from Iran is a priority. So, unless the deal signed with Iran provides for the opening of the straits as well as for the removal of the enriched uranium, I think that you're going to see a renewed military strike. And if there is a renewed military strike, then I think you could see additional actions, including the possible taking over of the Karg Island and potentially the Lavon Island in the Persian Gulf, as well as the assassination of additional Iranian leaders and striking at ballistic missile sites.
Right, and we've also been witnessing this parallel play of diplomacy and also military threat that was always on the table. But now Trump, who has earlier said that negotiations are now in their final stages, and as you've also rightly mentioned that it's either going to be military strikes if the deal is not reached, but also he said that the window for diplomacy could close very quickly. Now, how do you see it panning out, the trajectory of this war from here onwards?
Right, and Prime Minister Netanyahu has always said that the only way you can negotiate with the enemies throughout this conflict, be it Hamas, Hezbollah, or Iran, is under fire. And so the threat of a real military action, an imminent military action, is believed to be a very necessary component in order to reach any kind of negotiated conclusion. But the feeling in Israel, certainly among the population and among many of the leaders, is that within days you're going to see a return to military action, likely military action that will take less time than the original operation, which lasted 6 weeks. The feeling in Israel is that a renewed military operation could last 2 to 3 weeks and would necessitate several special forces missions, including to open up the Straits of Hormuz and the much more delicate operation of trying to remove that enriched uranium.
Absolutely. But of course, we understand that this is still a delicate situation and we'll have to closely track where it goes from here. But for now, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast and sharing your perspective with us.
Thank you for having me.